My '74 Norton Commando isn't just a motorcycle. It's a living, breathing piece of chrome and thunder, vibrating right down into your soul when the engine catches. When that official, embossed Homeowners Association letter landed on my doormat, listing my excessively loud, unauthorized vehicle as a violation, I knew exactly who had put it there: Brenda, the self-appointed queen of quiet. Could they seriously try to outlaw my classic bike, which I've meticulously restored over 2 years, just because it dared to sound like freedom? The ink on the page seemed to practically sneer at me, demanding immediate mitigation or face a hefty fine and impoundment. Are you kidding me right now? I picked up the hot rod red envelope, the paper crisp and offensive, and a deep sigh escaped me, smelling faintly of the sawdust from my garage workbench. That smell of premium octane and hot oil, man, that's my cologne. My blood instantly started to boil. This wasn't about noise. This was about Brenda's control complex. It always was. The letter claimed the bike exceeded established residential decibel limits, a limit I knew hadn't existed until last week, after I'd accidentally backfired the Commando while waving hello to her perpetually sour-faced husband, Gary. I swear, Gary looked like he was about to give me a high five, right before Brenda shot him the death glare from behind her meticulously trimmed boxwoods. Why does she always have to make it personal? I stomped over to the community clubhouse for the emergency meeting, the cheap fluorescent lighting humming an irritating, high-pitched tune above my head. The tension in the room was thick, like humidity before a summer storm. Brenda, sitting at the head of the table like a benevolent dictator in a pastel pantsuit, smiled that thin, shark-like smile. "As you can see, neighbors," she chirped, her voice grating like sand on glass, "Mr. Davies' motorcycle is a nuisance that threatens our property values and, frankly, our collective peace." I watched as she tapped a perfectly manicured nail on a printed photo, a picture of my bike, parked innocently in my driveway. The audacity! Before I could even open my mouth, a flurry of low, supportive murmurs rippled through the room. Old Mr. Henderson, whose mobility scooter was currently parked blocking the fire exit, a blatant violation Brenda conveniently ignored, gave me a subtle nod. Then, young Jenna from down the street, who rides a massive custom Harley, raised her hand. "Brenda, with all due respect, I bought a house here knowing there was a clause allowing 2 personal vehicles, and the bike is quieter than your poodle when the mailman arrives." Jenna's quiet courage gave me a shot of adrenaline. I stood up, leaning slightly forward, letting my indignation show. "Brenda," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "this rule is clearly retaliatory, created after the fact. I respect the Homeowners Association, but I won't stand for targeted harassment." The silence in the room was deafening, electrifying. That's when the side twist hit me. I remembered seeing a massive, oddly shaped delivery truck pull up to her house last month. I reached into my worn leather jacket pocket and pulled out my phone, opening a grainy satellite image I'd quickly pulled from the city zoning records before leaving the house. "Before we vote on my nuisance vehicle," I announced, my voice cutting through the silence like a knife, "perhaps we should discuss Article 4, Section B, Subsection 7. Permanent unapproved structures." Brenda's face, usually the picture of smug composure, instantly went pale. Got her. Her hand flew instinctively to her neck, right over the gold chain she wore every day. I projected the image onto the wall, shining my phone light on the screen. It clearly showed a massive, brightly painted purple shed, a fully functional home recording studio, sitting smack in the middle of Brenda's meticulously mandated backyard, towering over her fence line. I knew the rules. No structure over 100 square feet without Homeowners Association board and city approval. Her shed looked like a miniature fortress. "This structure," I stated, the justice already tasting sweet, "is approximately 250 square feet. Did the board approve this, Brenda? Or did you, the rulemaker, think the rules didn't apply to you?" The room erupted in gasps and angry whispers. The smell of hypocrisy was thicker than the hot pavement outside. Brenda stammered, scrambling for words. That's different. That's for my husband's hobby. It's soundproofed. It's unapproved and oversized." I countered immediately. smiling genuinely for the first time that evening. And by the way, Gary told me himself last week that he actually loves the sound of my commando rumbling by. A glorious mic drop moment, right? The room was now firmly on my side, tired of her petty tyranny. But Brenda, cornered and desperate, still insisted on the vote against the noise. The next Saturday morning, the air was crisp, and the sun was just beginning to burn off the morning dew. I wheeled the commando out, polishing the chrome one last time. The vote had ended in a tie, forcing a revote the following week. I felt a surge of nervous energy. I couldn't afford a fight like this every month. I sighed, kicking the engine to life. Vroom, rumble. The deep, resonant sound echoed perfectly off the still, quiet houses. I put on my helmet, ready for a solitary, defiant ride to clear my head. But then I heard it. First, a distant, familiar put. Then, a slightly louder harumph. And finally, the distinct, beautiful roar of a dozen different engines. I pulled my helmet up and looked down the street. It wasn't one bike. It was the whole neighborhood. Jenna led the pack on her Harley, Mr. Henderson chugging along behind in his scooter decorated with an American flag, Gary, Brenda's husband, waving sheepishly from his meticulously clean classic pickup, and a line of families in their rattling, pre-HOA, slightly too big SUVs. Every vehicle that dared to defy the quiet aesthetic was there. They hadn't come to watch me ride. They had come to ride with me. Solidarity, man! Jenna yelled over the growing noise, her eyes sparkling with rebellious fun. We figured if she wants loud, we'll give her loud. The roar of the engines swelled into a collective symphony of dissent. It was deafening, wonderful, and undeniably illegal by Brenda's proposed rule. We formed a column, a metallic river of roaring engines and rattling exhaust, and started a slow, purposeful circuit directly past Brenda's prized purple studio. What a sight! The asphalt itself seemed to shake with our communal spirit. We completed 3 glorious, ear-splitting loops. Brenda stood on her porch, her face a mask of incandescent fury, clutching a cordless phone. When we parked back on my street, the entire block felt different, charged with collective victory. At the revote the following week, the atmosphere was completely different. The new, restrictive noise ordinance was overwhelmingly struck down, 58-2. Yes, the community finally found its voice. The following week, Brenda resigned from the Homeowners Association board, citing a sudden loss of faith in neighborhood harmony and respect for rules. Her purple shed, it turns out, was finally brought up for a vote after my revelation and was ultimately denied retroactive approval, forcing her to pay the massive fine I had originally faced. Justice, sometimes, doesn't just rumble. It rides in on a whole convoy of loud, beautiful motorcycles. What a beautiful sound that was.